Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm testing something that I mentioned in my sound comparison video, but didn't get around to because the sound was such a big difference. I wanted to do that first. And that is something I've been suspecting the whole time since I booted up Forza 7. I felt it was a bit easier than Forza 6. Now it might have just been a first impressions thing that has really stuck with me. So I wanted to test it and see overall what I felt. So I tested 4 very different cars. We've gone for the Ford GT-LM, the Koenigsegg Agera, a Jaguar XJR9 and a McLaren MP44. All of them I'm going to be using no traction control just to really give myself the best idea of which is the easiest to control and which is maybe a bit harder, and if there is any difference at all. So the reason I went for the Koenigsegg is because it's a massively powerful road car, so like if it is easier to spin up the wheels in one game than it is in the other, you're going to notice it. And I didn't want to go for the 1-to-1, even though it has got more power, it's also got more error. So I actually felt, because I did test it, I actually felt it was a bit easier to control. So that's the reason I've gone for that. And there are also sound differences, which I didn't test any of these cars for that sound difference video. So I'm going to have little sections in each replay where you can judge for yourself which is the best. So the PI differences between the games exist, so they're not a strict side-by-side comparison. Even though the lap times are fairly similar, some of them, like the Koenigsegg Agera, has like a over 80 PI difference between Forza 6 and Forza 7, even though the lap times are very similar. So we're going to get started right now with the Ford GT-LM. I'm going to commentate over all of them, but I'll be quiet for the parts where you can hear the differences. So for this Ford GT, I've gone for 3 laps of Lime Rock for 2 reasons. 1, Lime Rock is extremely short, so 1 lap wasn't a very good test. And 2, I want to see consistency, because 1 might be faster, but if it's harder to be consistent, then it's obviously a bit of a harder game. But we're coming up to the part where I'm going to be quiet, because we are going to be showcasing the different sounds, and you guys can give me your opinion on those right after this. So do go ahead and leave your thoughts on the sounds of each of these cars after the video, or after you've seen all of them. So you can let me know what you think of those. But as far as the difference in like difficulty goes, you would expect the Forza 6 one to be a bit faster because the PI is about 25 higher than it is in Forza 7. I'm guessing that's because of the homologation system, because 835 was the homologation for Forza 7. And in Forza 6 it's standard at 859, so if they had done that in Forza 7 they wouldn't have been able to use it in Endurance GT. So I mean we are kind of expecting Forza 6 to be quite far ahead, but for 25 PI it's really not that far ahead. But of all of these tests I felt that it was actually quite a lot easier in Forza 6 to be consistent than it was in Forza 7. Forza 7 I found with all of these cars pretty much it's really quite a lot more understeery than it was in Forza 6, and I think in this particular car that just made it a bit more difficult, but for the others not necessarily, so we'll talk about that when we come to it. But I think that is the general feeling I get, that Forza 7 is a bit more understeery, so that means it's slightly harder to get wheel spin with the oversteer, but that is just a general theory. As we come to the end of the 3rd lap, you can see it's a good couple of seconds now ahead, which you would expect from a different PI. It's probably, I don't know how much 25 PI is actually worth in a 2-lap race in general. It would take probably a bit more testing. But now we are going to move across to the Jaguar XJR9 on Silverstone. Only 1 lap here. and we are coming up to the section where we are going to just have the sound of each of them individually. Okay, so the PI in Forza 6 is actually about 8 less than it is in Forza 7, so you would expect it to be slightly slower in Forza 6, and indeed it is. But my feeling on this particular car was that it was a lot easier to spin up the wheels in Forza 6 than in Forza 7, and in turn, the turning felt a little bit sharper in Forza 6, so I could carry a bit more speed through some corners. But I think, you know, just because of the PI, they've made difference. It is slightly faster in Forza 7, but I do think it's slightly easier to drive in Forza 7. You've just got to remember the fact that there is slightly more understeer. It's really not a whole lot, but Forza 6 just feels a lot more responsive, and the result of that is that it's also a bit more punishing if you're a bit too anxious on the throttle. So especially through this section here, I had to be a lot more careful in Forza 6 than I did in Forza 7. Forza 7 I could just get bang on the power straight away, almost, and Forza 6 not quite. I had to be a bit more patient. So Forza 7 wins that one. Now we're coming to the McLaren, which has got quite a big sound difference actually, and there's a different difficulty that we're going to talk about just after these sound clips here. So right through that corner, the first Lesmo, if I took it the same way in Forza 7 that I did in Forza 6, it wouldn't have gone too well. No, sorry, the other way around. If I had taken it the same way in Forza 6 that I did in Forza 7, it wouldn't have gone well, because you can turn in a lot more aggressively in Forza 7 than you can in Forza 6. If you do it in Forza 6, like the first time I did, I went straight from Forza 7 to Forza 6 for this, and I got a massive oversteer, and it was also the same situation and at the Parabolica here, so you got to be a bit more careful when you're braking in a straight line. In Forza 6, you can see Forza 7 I've just dived the nose in straight away, and you're going to keep it all balanced. Forza 6 not quite the same, but as far as low speed oversteer goes and wheel spin, it's pretty much the same between these two cars. It's just that you've got to be more careful. So when we come to now the Koenigsegg Agera, this was quite a strange one. This has got the biggest PI difference of all of them, but we're going to just talk about that after the sound clips. Now in Forza 6, this car felt a lot heavier than it does in Forza 7. It felt like it took longer to respond to inputs than it does in Forza 7. And there is, and I'm not joking, an 88 PI difference between the two games. Forza 7 has it on 899, and Forza 6 has it on 811, which tells me if you're using it in R-Class hopper in Forza 7, you're going to have a bad time. So you can see it's actually slower than the Forza 6 one, despite the handicap of PI, and despite it feeling a lot heavier. But again, like the McLaren, the oversteer felt pretty much the same between the two games. So I think this was quite an interesting test to do. It was certainly surprising to me. I thought it would be a clear difference between the two games, but it turned out to be much of a muchness. Some of them were a bit easier than others, but overall I think Forza 6 is a bit more punishing than Forza 7 is. although it's very, very minimal. So yeah guys, let me know what you think between the two games, and of course between the sounds. Go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. If you're new around here, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks to the Patreon champions you're seeing down below. The link is up here in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next video.